What's up, Buffalo Bills fans? Here we are at the end of the 2014 season, and what a season it was. I mean, from before it started until now, even after it finished, I mean, it just doesn't stop over at One Bills Drive, doesn't it? There's always something. I mean, today it's the whole, Napoleon, and there's a lot of people refuting it. There's a lot of people saying it could happen. He himself comes out on SiriusXM and says, "Well, I'm supposed to be at ESPN, so these are just rumors." I mean, again, if it happens, it happens. In all I'll say to it is, as long as it's in a role that is not designed or not in any way something that inevitably lands them hiring his son or having them hire his son, because that will that'll really upset me, because that type of nepotism, that type of reaching into the past. I mean, Napoleon name it's a la, it's not Marv Levy in this from the standpoint of Napoleon's a personnel guy, he always has been, but it's the sense of we're reaching into the past for the prior glory of the organization. And oh, and by the way, here's my son, as your GM, and how their situation dissolved in Indianapolis is well documented. Is not good. I mean, not good at all. And the Buffalo Bills organization, the last thing they need is another. We'll take one or two steps back and we'll say this 9-7 6 seasons is a success, and now we're going to take 20 steps back because we're going into the past, back to the future, and yeah, now we're bringing this guy's son, but he has his name. I mean, why don't we just go get Chad Kelly out from whatever bar he's in down in Mississippi, or bail him out from whatever drunk tank he's in and put him in as a starter? Why don't we do that? That sounds great. To me, that just, I really hope that's not the direction they go. And I mean, everything I've seen, even though I don't like the guy, and I was very happy that he wasn't up there today. I had to grab into the old morale bag today to try to find positives. I made a lot of concessions to find positives today. I think a lot of us Bills fans do. And not hearing Russ Brandon up there today was good. I'm like, thank God. He just should not be talking about football. He should not be ever talking about football for this organization. If you want to talk about season tickets and whatever, that's fine, but not football. You're not a football guy, and you shouldn't be doing that. And that's a good. So let's keep it that way. And whether they are or aren't is always up for debate. And Marone and Whaley were up there today, Doug, and I mean, it was a lot of semantics. I mean, a lot of these press conferences they always, sometimes if you read the tea leaves, leave a nugget here and there for you to pick up, because they are human. They're not going to be, even though they're guarded, they're eventually going to have to say something, and you couldn't dance around the quarterback issue. I mean, obviously right away today when we all wake up or, happen to get the alerts on our phones, it was, it's right there that Orton announces his retirement, and whether it was to be a surprise or not, that they didn't know about it, to me is neither here nor there. Any guy at any given point in time can tell you he's walking away. The fact that he's the quarterback, the way he was acquired, and how he started playing. I mean, obviously one of the weirdest tenures in Bills history. One of the stranger ones, particularly for a quarterback. And I'd have to go back to a guy who had an equally stranger one in Billy Joe Hobert, where the Bills had traded a third-round pick for him, and he played. I think Todd Collins had gotten benched in New England, and he played. They lost the game, obviously, and then after the game he admitted, "Well, I didn't know the playbook. Really didn't know the playbook," and they just cut him. They didn't there. I think they just cut him when he admitted that he didn't know the playbook to the media. That was one that was, yeah. This, obviously, if you want to measure, was a lot more successful, but, got to take what we can get, right, Bills fans? But yeah, but it really puts the Bills in a position we all wanted them to be in anyway, where they have to address the quarterback position, and Whaley addressed it. Like, well, look, we're gonna have one or two. That's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear about them standing pat. Um, I think if they had to do it over again, they would have done it differently last year. But it was a situation where, look, we got this young guy. We're gonna, get him healthy and go forward with him, surround him with as much talent as possible, and he can grow into the job and progress. With a full off season available to him, he should be better, healed up. He doesn't have to go through the bowl game, the scouting combine, and the interview process, and that's a lot on some of these rookies. I think that is so much more than I think that we can ever grab ourselves. I mean, obviously the questions about the Watkins trade, whether the comparisons of Beckham and Evans, and let me just say, it's easy to sit there and say, well, we're going to look at these stats, these raw numbers, and say, well, this guy was worth. I don't think nobody in their mind, nobody. I didn't hear any Bills fans talking about Odell Beckham Jr. Nobody. Zach Martin was like a Pro Bowl guard. If they would have taken, and Bills need a guard, yes. Bills would have taken Zach Martin. We're rioting. We converge on Ralph Wilson Stadium with pitchforks and torches if they take a guard. I'll sit there and say, I mean, I've said it. I wanted Mike Evans, but they got Watkins. I root for the jersey. I don't root for the. At the end of the day, I root for the player. You're in a Bills uniform now. I root for you. You're my guy. And if you watch the games, they just didn't. I don't feel like they got him the ball enough. They didn't give him the opportunities to make plays, whether it was run after catch or just getting him plays in space. They just really, the design of this offense was poor, and which really leads into my next subject. They didn't really. Marone's normally very like it's hard to listen to him sometimes. He's not very good at being articulate, and really didn't. There wasn't a lot of endorsing of the offensive staff. Let's just put it that way today. There wasn't a big. I mean, for him to say that they went back and looked at some of the stuff Chan did for Spiller was like, oh shit. I mean, Hackett, I think your office could use a little bit of cleaning because I don't think you'd be needing it anymore. That was wow. I don't know if you needed to hear any more. I think that was a pretty clear indication that they're gonna overhaul this offensive staff, and they should. The defensive staff, obviously, I mean, they didn't really even need to talk about the defense because it was so good. But the offensive staff was like, oh, they just basically said, well, they're going to evaluate it. And then I think he later on said about the Gailey utilization of Spiller. And I was like, oh. And then the offensive line sort of being called out after the Raider game for the lack of production. And it's kind of a shot across Pat Morrison's bow, I would say. Yeah. I think that they definitely need changes, whether it's the entire offensive staff, whether it's the coordinator, the offensive line coach, which I think is probably going to be the two likeliest moves. Maybe even tight ends coach. Who knows? It's going to be interesting thing to follow because they definitely need to look at that. And a lot of these coaches, you see them, they get in a position and they bring the guys along that they feel like helped them get the success and get them where they were there. Hackett, a young guy, a lot of energy, very good talker, very enthusiastic, a lot of, high energy. But when you get out there and you're watching the weird play calls, the design of the offense, the lack of being able to create mismatches or move guys around or create space for players to use their offensive ability and create mismatches. It just was this offense is just so poorly designed and so poorly, the concepts are just not. I mean, I think we all do better on Madden, and I know that's easy to say, but geez, there's nothing there. I mean, even I on Madden know that I'm not going to run it up the middle with fucking Spiller. He doesn't break tackles. He's not good at it. He's a better space guy. I mean, I know that's kind of a stupid thing for me to compare it to, but just Marone saying that about his predecessor at head coach, who was was pretty much the offensive coordinator, but masquerading around as the head coach and the play caller was pretty damning. I felt to Hackett. I know I'm going on about this, but wow. So I think we're going to see a change there. $1 million question where they're going to go with it, but there's no doubt that changes need to be made on that side of the ball. First in the personnel, on the some of the offensive line, the quarterback, whether it's one or two they bring in. I mean, they re-signed Jeff Toole to an exclusive deal today. I mean, I know that before free agency they have a camp in early March, and then they start the free agency period, whether they acquire a player via trade, whether they, whatever they do in the draft. Whaley said all options open, all options on the table, not pigeonhole, not painting themselves in a corner. Typical rhetoric, but you can't go out and give your hand away. So we'll see what they do. Those are going to be the two things that us Bills fans are going to look at is who do they hire as the offensive coordinator? What's his background? Who's he worked with? What type of offense does he run? I mean, I know there hasn't been any moves made officially yet. There has not been any, they said even yesterday that this day is for the players, that they do all the exit physicals and all that type of stuff to see who might need a surgery or whatever, or who, maybe we're not going to re-sign you, maybe we are going to re-sign you. They just kind of clear the air. We're going to be moving in a different direction. A lot of that stuff happens, but we don't know about it. I mean, that's kind of the thing I love on Twitter. And this video is going to be a lot shorter than the last one, by the way, even though it's a season-ending video. That there's some good follows, and that over time you learn who the good follows are. Like a lot of the national guys to me are just like shameless self-promoters. They just love promoting themselves, and they like piggybacking off things that other guys write in the local papers, wherever the local guys are, whoever they are, whatever teams they cover. Kind of like the Mike Florio and Jason Lock-on-4. They were piggybacking an article Bucky Gleason had wrote in the Buffalo News on Friday, and all of a sudden on Sunday, it's a story about Polian, but Bucky Gleason wrote it in the fucking paper on Friday. But national guys get a hold of it and they throw their name on it and they throw it on a big website like NBC Sports or CBS, whatever. I mean, the one guy, the agent, said, "Dude, you're just trying. It's agent on agent crime. It is. There's a lot of agent stuff. I mean, shit. I know I've mentioned this before, but Ian Rappaport blocked me about asking about. I constantly kept asking him, like, Big Ben trade, what happened? I would hashtag it, Big Ben trade, what happened? And he ended up blocking me. I wasn't vulgar. I wasn't rude. I just asked what happened to the Big Ben trade because he was lying. And he's friends with an agent. He wanted to drum up, something to create a situation where we have to sign him to extension. There's a lot of these agents and a lot of these national guys, they have agents. They do. They have the same agents. So a lot of it is very, what do you call that? Insider trading, or, they have ulterior motives, self-serving agendas, whatever. They're not there to inform the fan or the public is all I'm trying to say. But yeah, so I mean, a lot of those things will get diffused over time. A lot of them become non-stories. You know, they create a lot of buzz in the interim, but long term, a lot of the things really have not a lot of not a lot of bite. So we'll see what they do. The Polian thing, I heard him on Sirius Sports, the Sirius Radio, and he said, well, you know, it's a rumor, and you know, he's there at ESPN, and I'm here supposed to be doing this, so I'm obviously not in Buffalo, um, and I don't want, like I stated earlier, I just don't want any part of that. And we'll see what they do at quarterback. There's not a lot of sexy names out there. I, you know, you look at a Tampa Bay situation, um, maybe Mike Glennon, a guy that they've had pre-existing interest in entering the draft, the same draft EJ was drafted in. Um, so he's a tall guy with a big arm who's still young, who wins from the pocket, is not as, you know, is not as mobile as EJ, but he's not as immobile as Kyle Orton. So maybe they feel like he's somebody they could work with, and the price wouldn't come at a premium because it's all but a given that Tampa Bay is going to draft Marcus Mariota just to they've got to infuse their fan base with some excitement and some buzz down there because I don't think they can roll out Josh McCown and Glennon as their starters. And you know, I think Glennon having gone through the Shiano, and that was another thing. That's not their guy. Um, Drafted by Dominic, the guy that was caught on tape, recorded with Whaley. It's kind of funny, but you know, he's a possibility. A young guy. I know it seems kind of like a linear move, but you know, he doesn't have bad numbers. He hasn't won a lot. Tampa Bay hasn't been a particularly good team, but they beat the Bills with Glennon of all people. And there's that. The veteran options for me. I mean Hoyer, Locker. I mean, you know, the Bradford. Bradford. I mean, my God, he might slip and tear his ACL for Christ's sake. I just no way. I just no, I just it's gonna be tough. The draft. I mean, I don't like honestly. I'm not a big fan of the top guys because I think Mariota's he's more of a lot of his running. The NFL has figured out, and I think he gets a lot of his success off of that. And I don't think he has the arm to zip a lot of the passes that you have to zip in. But you never know. I mean, he looks like a smart kid, a heady kid that can make it work. Um, Winston's psycho. I just don't want any part of him. If that kid had Mariota's head on his shoulders, he'd be persona non grata, the first overall pick. He's definitely a talent, but it's just sad he's just so immature. I mean, Bryce Petty's intriguing. I'm not gonna lie, he is intriguing. Obviously, throws a lot in the Baylor offense. There's a few other guys like Mark Myers, who was a Pitt transfer, is a big guy, 6'4", 220, ended up at John Carroll. So there's a few interesting prospects to look at and think about. And you don't always need to take one in the first, even though the Bills are devoid of that by their own doing. And I know I think about it, and I told myself I wouldn't, but there's nothing you can do about it. So you just got to wait till 16 to have a first round pick. And the Bills, for till quite recently, wasted a lot of those. I mean, Spiller, Aaron Maben, anybody? Uh, Whitner, oh yeah, John McCargo. Come on now, let's keep going. J.P. Lossman. So if there was Mike Williams or Willis McGahee, I mean, come on, there was a big span where the Bills were just whiffing whiffing on those picks. McKelvin even, I mean, okay, but not what you think you're getting at that spot in the draft. So yeah, I mean, the draft is always one of those hindsight deals. It's always we look back, well, we could have. Every team, every fan base does that. It's an easy game to play with the 2020 vision, 2010 vision, I should say. You have in hindsight. So we'll see what they do, Bills fans. I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of energy in this video. It's been holidays are just they're draining. The Bills are draining, as we all know. They really know how to tax your soul and your heart and your body. I didn't let them mess me up though this year. I was able to stay in shape and stay in the gym and just not depress me or get me down. And the only thing that kept me sane was just working out all the frustration from this, Bills season. Even though it was a 9-7 season, the first winning season in forever, it was just frustrating. To look back at some of the opportunities and still the same questions about the quarterback and hopefully some resolution. Obviously with the ownership, but however the front office is going to be structured or not structured. How fast is that going to come? It's the ultimate mail soap opera, and that's why we continue watching. It's just, man, do they have a good thing going? Wow, what a racket the NFL has, man. Let me tell you. But anyway, Bills fans, you have a good one. Hopefully, I always wish this. Let's have a good off season, whether it's EJ or not EJ. Let's finally find some type of, say, answer, but some sort of, just elixir at quarterback, whether it is him or not. Just a tried and true quarterback competition. May the best man win. You guys go out, equal reps, do it. The team will know, and you'll know who the better guy is. The coaches will know, and that's the guy who wins the job and gets the bulk of the reps and just goes on. That's it. And who knows? They might trade EJ. It's a weird situation. What do they get for him? I have no idea. But we'll see what happens with the staff, particularly obviously offensive staff, quarterback, the front office structure, whether there is or isn't, or whether there's a more defining, role for each guy. We'll all see how that unfolds in the next, few weeks to a month, Bills fans. All right, I'm sure I'll do a couple of videos before then with any further developments. And you guys have a good new year, safe new year. Take care. Go Bills. 2015. Other organizations in the division are changing. I mean, how good or bad are the Dolphins staying pat with Philbin and Mike Wallace being benched or saying he pulled himself out of a game? I mean, that situation doesn't look like it's a positive one. And Landry developed down there, played very, very well for them. I mean, how much longer do they want to go with that headache and that contract? There's some aging players on defense too, particularly their corners. The Jets, a total organizational overhaul in Florham Park right here, probably like 45 minutes that way. We'll see what they do. Obviously, we always, as teams that are in the division, they just, they change. But then there's the New England model, which is steady as she goes. And I sometimes think they just sit and laugh at the rest of the team, the rest of us teams in the division. Like, look at all those guys, changing coaches, can't find quarterbacks, and it's true. And I think that's really played into their success. And if you look back, I think it was 05 or 06. I don't know if it was that late, but when they finally changed the divisions as they are structured now currently, we had Peyton Manning. All of us. It was Brady and Manning in the AFC East. Oh my God. Talk about the murderer's row. And I think that plays a lot into the Bills' absence from the playoffs too. You play against those two guys 4 times a year. The likelihood of you coming out with a win is 1-3 at best, 0-4 a lot. So still got to close that gap, and you just got to find stability. And hopefully, we can get some stability and start closing this gap. All right, Bills fans, have a good one. Take care. Safe New Year and Happy New Year.